Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and welcome to PlayLoad. This is all my video game pickups for the month of March 2014, and we'll kick it off with what you guys have already seen, which is Redux and Dux 1.5. These are new Sega Dreamcast games. Well, sort of. Dux 1.5 has been out for a while. I did two videos on this, actually. The first one was an unboxing video with a little bit of gameplay of Redux. And then the second video, which not too many people watched, and I think it was just because most people assumed it was the same video with simply a different title or something. But basically the second video, if you missed it, is a comparison of Dux 1.5, and Redux, in case you're curious what all the differences are. I played the first level of each game. And yeah, I picked these up. I have every other version of Dux and Redux, except for the limited edition version of Redux, which I still need to get my hands on. It basically looks like this, has a different case, and it comes with this game and this game. And just as a collector, I want to get my hands on that. So I'll do that eventually. But yeah, so if you're into the Dreamcast scene, I highly recommend picking up Redux or Dux. And this was a good month for Dreamcast games. Not only did we get this, but we also got this, Neo Zyxu. I also did a video on this. This is a new game for the Dreamcast made by Neo Geo dev team. This is another shoot 'em up, which is this one as well, which is, you know, a bullet hell shooter. You're a little plane and you shoot at stuff. That's the most common thing we get on the Sega Dreamcast. Yeah, this, like I said, collector's version comes with the regular edition and limited edition, as well as some other stuff that I don't have out here, like a t-shirt. And yeah, if you're into the Dreamcast, again, I recommend picking this up. At least getting the regular edition just to play the game. It plays a lot like Truxton, just so you know you have some sort of comparison. But like I said, made by Neo Geo dev team, which is a good segue into this. This is Magician Lord. I did another video in which I got some very, very generous people sent me some stuff for free. Now, I will say, of course, that no one ever has to do that. You do not have to send me things. It's very nice. I obviously appreciate it very much, but it's absolutely not necessary. This was a game sent to me by a guy named Al, and he just told me to call him Al because he said I would never be able to pronounce his actual name. And since he's from Norway, I'm inclined to believe him, because I'm an American and we don't know how to pronounce things. It's just how it is. But yeah, he sent me this, which was a big shocker. I was not expecting that. I thought I was getting a Neo Geo CD game, and when this showed up, I was like, wow. Because this is... I've never had a Neo Geo AES game appear on this show. The reason being is that while I do own the console, ironically, I don't own a Neo Geo CD, I only have 4 games for it. Now I have 5 because of this. And it's just because the games are so expensive. You know, the other 4 I bought like over a decade ago. You know, and I simply assumed, like, that was enough. That's enough for my Neo Geo collection. I really didn't expect to get another one. So really cool that he hooked me up with this. I mean, this is by no means one of the rare ones. It's one of the more common Neo Geo AES games. And even this is a $60 game. I mean, it's in pretty good shape too. I managed to clean it up a bit. It had a couple of stickers on it. I got those off. And yeah, that's a Neo Geo AES cartridge, in case you've never seen one. They are huge. And I just want to say thank you again, Al, for hooking me up with this. This is really cool of you. I love getting a new Neo Geo AES game because, like I said, that really never happens. He also threw in Tecmo Super NBA Basketball for the Super Nintendo, mostly as a gag because it's got the Chicago Bulls on it, and I'm a huge Chicago Bulls fan, so that was just cool of him to throw that in. In the same video, I got a couple other packages. One was from a guy named Chris, and he hooked me up with a couple of NES games. This game, of course, is Gauntlet, which is a pretty cool game. It had a sequel on the NES as well, and then I think the series actually continued on for a while. I think Midway took it over, and they made like Gauntlet Legends for the Dreamcast, and I think there was a PS2 version, maybe even an Xbox version. Though I don't know if Gauntlet is still an active series. I don't think it is since Midway shut its doors, but yeah, really cool to pick up a game like this because I don't mind bolstering my NES collection a bit, and it's cool to get a game that I didn't have. And the same goes for this game, Superman. For those who do not know, I am a huge Superman fan. I really love the character of Superman. I just think he's awesome. And yeah, unfortunately his games are not. What can I say? I wish... this is going to sound ironic as all hell. Superman Returns for the Xbox 360 is actually, in my opinion, the best Superman game. And that's really messed up because that movie was not the best Superman movie by any stretch of the imagination. But I still maintain it was probably the best game. And yeah, I mean, Superman has had some bad games. And of course, famously, Superman 64. This one isn't that level of bad, but it's by no means a great game. But doesn't mean I wouldn't welcome it. I'm glad to have it. Again, it's an NES game I didn't have, and I like Superman, so really cool to have that. Chris also gave me a little Sega logo that's part of a Sega Saturn kiosk. That's pretty cool. And there were a couple other packages in that same video from a guy named Telmo. He gave me this little like Dreamcast coin pouch, and a guy named John gave me some Shenmue stuff. But I'm not including those here because I just include games and consoles and sometimes like accessories. I don't really include like merch like t-shirts and posters and stuff here. So not that I don't acknowledge you. I'm just only showing off games for now. Moving on, I also picked up, now I didn't talk about this at any point, I picked up Sleeping Dogs for the Xbox 360. This is by no means a brand new release, but it's still cool to finally get my hands on. We did a video on this on my other channel, Game Society Pimps, a long time ago, but we just rented it. And I remember enjoying it, but I didn't really want to pick it up at full cost. And just recently, GameFly was selling this for $7, so I said, you know what the hell, for $7 I'd pick it up. So here it is, and I'm glad to have it. A lot of people compare this to Shenmue, and I find that kind of odd. I mean, yeah, it's set in a very obviously Asian, you know, context, but that doesn't necessarily make it Shenmue. But yeah, also, basically the analogy I've heard is Grand Theft Auto in the Shenmue universe, which I would assume is more like Yakuza. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, this game got a lot of positive reviews, and I'm glad to have it now. So there you go. But it's not the only 360 game I picked up. This is the only one this month that I bought that wasn't used. Well, save for those two, I guess. Which is South Park: The Stick of Truth. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what my thoughts on this game are. I have it twofold. I think it's a very well-made game. It's very well done, and I'm a huge South Park fan, so I've really enjoyed watching this game. But therein lies the problem, is that I just enjoyed watching it. I didn't really enjoy playing it because turn-based RPGs, which is what this game is, are really not my thing. I do not enjoy playing games of that nature. So yeah, that was we did more videos of this again on my other channel, Game Society Pimps, which I swear is not just me plugging that channel, though you should go watch those videos. Please. But yeah, we did a few videos on this, so I got to watch a lot of the gameplay of this, which I really enjoyed because it's kind of like being in an episode. It's very cool in that sense. So yeah, it was definitely worth picking up for that reason alone. But also, I bought this on Amazon and I had pre-ordered it from them. And long story short, they dropped the price for 1 day last week, and then they refunded the difference back to me, which was pretty cool. The game came out, it was $60, and then they dropped it down to like 43 or whatever, so they gave me $17 back after I'd already had the game for a couple weeks, which was really cool of them. I love Amazon, and I highly recommend shopping at Amazon. Now, from here on out, I told you guys I'm getting into the Sega Saturn a little bit more. I'm trying to bolster my collection of it. And I did a video about foam inserts, which has very mixed reviews. A lot of people seem to get it, and there's a few people who don't seem to get it. But that's fine. This game, by no means nothing special. Like I said, I'm just going around eBay trying to bolster the collection. But this one actually has a funny story behind it. This is, you know, All-Star Baseball 97 featuring Frank Thomas, which is by no means a game that I was particularly interested in. But when you're going for a complete collection, sadly you have to pick up even the games you don't really want or have no real interest in, such as this. But funny thing about this one and this one, which is Bases Loaded 96, I bought them both from the same seller. And after he shipped them, he sent me a message and he said, hey, you know, dude, I watch your stuff on YouTube. I just started watching you last week. It's what are the odds, you know, like an eBay seller, and of all the eBay sellers out there and all the YouTubers out there, what are the odds that, you know, we would actually end up doing business together? It's pretty cool. And I said, yeah, that is pretty neat. And I told him to watch out for PlayLoad because they were both going to pop up. And sure enough, here they are. So there you go. There's a couple of Sega Saturn sports games that I have no real interest in, but they will look good on a shelf. It's kind of the extent of it, unfortunately. Moving on to a game I actually do kind of enjoy, Virtua Cop. Now, there are two versions of Virtua Cop, and I don't mean Virtua Cop 2. I mean this game. There's the really common, like there's a sleeve version of the game that came with the Sega Saturn towards the end of its lifespan. It's really common. If you have a Sega Saturn, odds are you have that game. Then there was also this original long box release, which is far less common. Not by any means valuable, but you know, if you're going for the Saturn collection, the idea is, of course, to have the full long boxes, because when you stack them up on a shelf, they look really cool together. So yeah, I ended up finding it, and I was happy to pick it up. This is a pretty sweet game. It's a pretty cool light gun game, and unfortunately that renders it mostly useless on modern TVs because you can't play it that way, but yeah, it's still a pretty cool thing to just have your hands on, especially because, like I said, the long box version is not as common. I also picked up Bug and its sequel, Bug 2. Now these are pretty cool. I believe they're Sega Saturn exclusive platformers. They're kind of a weird 2D, 3D combo. I don't know how else to describe it. It's very surreal to play as a platformer, because sometimes you'll be in this 2D kind of area where you're kind of walking along like that, and then it'll switch to this, like, see that right there, you know, you can actually walk up that path. So it kind of switches into a 3D mode. It takes some getting used to, but it is actually a pretty fun platformer. So if you have a Saturn and you are looking for platformers, I would recommend Bug and Bug 2, just because they're pretty unique and they're pretty fun. Not amazing, but, you know, fun. Oh, sports games. NFL Quarterback Club 97. Picked that up. It came in a lot. I don't like football. Sorry. Moving on. Daytona USA. This is interesting because there are a lot of versions of Daytona USA, and this is the shittier one. What do I mean by that? Long story short, in '95, Sega released the Saturn like 5 months earlier than they were supposed to, mostly to try and do some weird marketing tactic. I think it was at like E3 of that year. You know, they just came out and said, like, here's the Sega Saturn, here's what it looks like, here are the games, here's the price, you know, much like we would have seen, you know, last year with Sony and Microsoft when they did that. The difference is, in the same press conference, they go, oh, by the way, just so you know, go out to your local game store because it's already there. So the idea was a surprise launch where people would get excited about it at E3 and then be able to just buy it immediately. Weird idea, but whatever, they did it. And the reason that this game matters in that story is this is one of the games where they intended to launch it in, I think it was November of that year, as a launch title. But when the launch got pushed up a few months, they basically told the developers, like, oh, by the way, we're going to release the game, like, you know, next week, so make sure it's ready. And they were like, what? So this is a very buggy, incomplete beta type of version of the game. And they re-released it later as Daytona USA Championship Circuit Edition, which is also very, very common, because that's the one that, again, it came with Virtua Cop, and I think Virtua Fighter 2, like it is a 3-pack, they kind of came everywhere. So this is the weaker version. I already have the better version, so it's just another thing just to have on a shelf. By no means valuable, just interesting. Now, picked up Tomb Raider. This is interesting to me because Tomb Raider, as I'm sure a lot of you, or if you're Tomb Raider fans, you might not have even known that Tomb Raider 1 is on the Sega Saturn. And what's interesting about that is that Tomb Raider, believe it or not, while we all probably vastly associate at least the older version of Tomb Raider with the PS1, this game in particular was actually developed and intended to be a Sega Saturn exclusive. There was no, I mean, it was built from the ground up for the Sega Saturn and was simply ported over to the PS1 because the PS1 was doing better as a console. And so, does that matter? No, not really. But if you're into Tomb Raider and you have a Saturn, I'd say give it a shot because you'll get to play the game kind of the way it was intended. Does that mean it's necessarily superior? I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely cool to have if you have a Sega Saturn or if you're a big Tomb Raider fan. I also picked up Solar Eclipse. This game was much more fun than I had expected. This is essentially, while Sega didn't make it themselves, I want to call it Sega's answer to Star Fox, because it plays very much the same way, except it has FMV sequences in it. And unlike a lot of the games we associate with FMV back in the 90s, this one actually did it very well. You know, it had fucking gameplay, lots of gameplay, and the cutscenes that they would throw in there, the FMV cutscenes, just were their way of telling the story. It didn't interrupt and it didn't dictate the gameplay and the story. So I had a lot of fun with this. And yeah, see, like, you'll see footage there. You know, it starts off like a little movie, but then it just switches over to actual gameplay. And it doesn't, yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. If you have a Saturn, pick up Solar Eclipse, assuming you like Star Fox. Some of the better, more valuable ones we got here. Earthworm Jim 2. Now, this was a very popular series, obviously, in the early 90s, and I know this game came out on the Genesis and was really popular for that. I was a little surprised to even find out there was a Sega Saturn version. I was kind of like, why would you port a Genesis game over? But that's what they did. It's screenshots from the Saturn version. I'm guessing that it has, like, superior music and probably extra levels or something, maybe extra weapons. I really don't know. I'm betting it's like the definitive version of the game, but yeah, I guess I'm not totally sure on that. It's one of the more sought after games on the Saturn, not by all means particularly valuable. It's kind of like between a $30 to a $50 type of game these days. I got it for less because I bought it in a lot, but yeah, cool to have. And finally, for the Saturn, I got Lunacy. Now, this is probably the best pickup of the month as far as Saturn games go, I guess I should say. This is like a cool horror game made by Atlas, actually. 2-disc game. This is like a $90 game, but I didn't pay anywhere near that. Like I said with this, and I guess with this, I bought this in a lot. Now, I bought a couple of these in lots, and I don't remember which ones were together. I remember those two just because of that story. But that's the way to go. That's the tip I have to give you. If you're into collecting games, buying lots is amazing because, you know, you'll find there's inevitably someone who bought all these games when they came out and just kept them in a closet, and then he goes off to college or marries or moves out or whatever, and his relatives sell the stuff on eBay but don't know what it's worth. You know, they'll put all 4 of these games together and go, Saturn games, and they have no idea, and they put the whole thing up for like 20 bucks. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that happens all the time. That's the best way to hunt down some of these games. I have gotten so many games that way. So many rare ones. Such as, I actually have the Panzer Dragoon Saga 1 and 2. I have all 3, and I did it that exact way. I just found someone who was selling all 3 for $80. They just called it Panzer Dragoon games. It was, I couldn't believe it when they arrived. They weren't counterfeit, they weren't bootlegs. I had actually received all 3 in pristine shape for 80 bucks. So, my point is, look into lots, because you can get awesome stuff like Lunacy for very, very little money. And my final thing here is something that is basically completely pointless, but is just cool to have. This is the Sega Saturn Netlink, and basically what this is a modem for the Sega Saturn. For those who do not know, shocker, the Sega Saturn had online play, or was capable of it, much like you might think of the Xbox 360, Xbox One, PS4, you know, etc. They all have online gameplay, and the Saturn was in that club. It just wasn't very good at it. As far as I know, there were only 3 games that supported this, which I'll talk about in a moment. The modem used, of course, a phone line because it was the mid-90s, and I believe had a maximum speed of 28K. Holy crap! Now it's completely useless as far as I know because, well, first of all, the servers are down, so you can't play online. And even back in the day, I don't know how well you would have actually been able to play online. But now, I don't know if it supports like local area play, so you could have 2 consoles hooked up. I doubt it, but it really is just a novelty and to show that Sega, man, you guys were really ahead of your time. I mean, the fact that this thing was released to the public in like 95 or 96 to play online, the fact that Sega did that early is pretty impressive. So, yeah. The 3 games, as far as I know, are essentially just re-releases of other games, such as Daytona USA. There was Daytona USA Championship, there was Daytona USA Netlink Edition, which was the name of their service, which is an extremely rare game. It's like a $300 game. I doubt I'll ever pick it up because I don't really care about getting the Netlink versions. Then I think Sega Rally did it, and Virtualon did it. And yeah, I think that was it. That was the only ones that ever supported it, though. If anybody else knows of any more than that, please let me know. So really, that's it. I just wanted to show you guys the pickups, and thank you for watching. Thank you again to Al, and to John, and Telmo, and Chris for all these cool items. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all later.